everybody, Ben for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. On a Friday, we get together and we have a look at the top 5 something, normally to do with Blood Bowl. Now, we're continuing our quest to find the best third-party alternatives for your Blood Bowl teams. We've come now to Wood Elves, and Wood Elves have had an epic journey in Blood Bowl. They have been phenomenal, they have been legendarily powerful, and these days they're just pretty good. And the Games Workshop models are pretty good, but we think we can do better. So we put a post out earlier this week to get some great advice from you guys. So we put together our top 5 Wood Elf teams. And coming in at number 5, we've got the Realm of Paths team. Now, when it came to looking at Wood Elf teams, there's quite a variety out there for them. And whether you're going to be using a Count-As team or just something kind of similar to Games Workshop, there's a few that go a little bit different. And one of them is the Realm of Paths team. Now, I think have we done a print to pitch for this? I'm not sure if we've done a print to pitch, but actually we can flick through and have look at some of the models. They've gone in a very similar style to Games Workshop, where you've got the half masks and you've got the kind of leather strap kind of thing, but in a kind of greeny browny way. And you've got the padded things, you've got a bit of fur, you've got a bit of like the standardized pelts, the leather stitching, just things that make them look like kind of forest folk, like Celts, elven Celts playing Blood Bowl. And the Realm of Paths of guys have taken this standard motif, they've gone to town with the musculature, which we do see a lot in Blood Bowl, and also they've gone a little bit pointy with the ears. Now, I actually quite like this. When it comes to elves in Blood Bowl and fantasy games, the pointy ears are kind of like a teeny tiny thing. It's like just like you wouldn't even know. You know they're an elf because they're tall, because they're lithe, because they're mobile looking, they're agile looking. These guys, they've got Spock ears, and when I first saw these models, I kind of thought, wow, they remind me of Weyoun from Deep Space Nine, like just that kind of alien Star Trek vibe. So naturally, I was impressed. And we've printed out some of these models. I like this. They've got a rock base option, so they can actually stick to the base a little bit better. I like that because when it comes to this, and we see this from star players all of the time, right? A single point of contact with the base puts a lot of pressure on that. And when it comes to resin printed, this is a 3D printed team. Resin it's not bad these days, and the stuff that we use in the store is pretty resilient. Sometimes you can drop something from a height and it will shatter, but most of the time you can take a 3D printed resin model and kind of chuck it about and it will be absolutely fine. But having stronger joints is always a really good thing. Now, this team is divided into 2 sections if you're getting the STLs for it. I think they're $20 each, $16 each. There you go. So $30, you can get basically the whole team. And you've got the dancers, you've got the throwers, you've got the linemen, you've got the catchers. And one thing I will say is the detail's great for these teams. They've just done a really good job of you being able to tell the positionals. And when it comes to elves, when it comes to wood elves in particular, they're all just elves, right? So actually being able to differentiate the positionals based entirely, let's see if we can go back, on the actual models, I think is excellent. Oh, let's click this one here. Let's go to part 1 of the teams. That was part 2 of the team, and part 1 has got the same, including a tree man, which I don't normally see as a high priority for wood elves, because tree men, you can get some great tree men everywhere, but actually this one comes with a tree man and a great assortment of players. So really like this one, and was heavily recommended by you guys in the comments, and I happen to fully agree. So number 5, Realm of Paths. For it's Torchlight, another STL team. Really pleased to see a few people mention this. Torchlight, if you've seen any of these videos before, our company is a sculptor that just sculpts fantasy, mostly Blood Bowl things. And Torchlight has this style, which is slightly exaggerated feet, slightly exaggerated hands, and in most cases slightly exaggerated faces that tend to lean towards kind of models that look like a modernized version of someone trying to sculpt something from the 90s, and it works really well. They've got a nice cartoony quality to them, and we've seen some really great Torchlight teams. The Khorne team in particular is absolutely wonderful. Some of them can be a bit optimistic, and like we said, when it comes to 3D printing, having fragile bits can lead to print failures, and Torchlight, the arms tend to be a little bit spindly. It's quite funny, the arms tend to be the point of failure. But you've got a brilliant and fully fledged Wood Elf team here. You've got War Dancers, and you've got several different options. This is something I thought was really, really cool about this team, is they've actually sculpted 4 different War Dancers, so 2 male, 2 female, to give you that variety within your team, which I think is just brilliant, because more choice is more better, as well as more Blood Bowl. You've got 2 Tree Men, I think, if I remember correctly, when... yeah, your mileage may vary on the faceless Tree Men. I'm a big fan of Treeman having character, having that kind of cartoony quality where you can assign a personality to the tree. Treebeard, Dirthu, they've all got big tree faces, and you're like, hey, the tree's a man. And that's kind of how it works. They've gone a different route. They look more like forest elementals, and that is very cool. But they've done a great job here because you've also got these female war dancers, which could very much fit in as stabby dark elf kind of switcheroos. There is 2 Treemen, one with a massive boulder and again a little bit skinny arms, so be careful of the skinny arms. But here are the positionals. Here's the actual pieces, the alignment of the team. Skinny arms, but you've got that kind of Torchlight, big feet, big hands, and where the faces are a little bit larger than you'd expect, Torchlight's able to get a lot of character in them, and it means that they paint up brilliantly. And the cool thing about this, here's your 2 War Dancers. They've got a really kind of, not evil vibe to them, but where their face has got so much detail, it's got a lot of character, and it makes it look kind of asinine, kind of concerning, and that's kind of a really nice take on elves. You know, they are supposed to be arrogant, haughty, and not really like people. And you get the vibe from these guys. And they've got cool masked versions as well, which is really good. Here's some of the catches with some really wonderful posing. But again, be careful. That guy is on the base by 1 foot. That guy's by 1 hand. These guys are both on base by 1 foot. Now, resin 3D printing has come a long way. And, you know, I've been printing out Tomb Kings recently just because I got excited for the old world. Actually, it is quite survivable. Like, I've had loads of Games Workshop plastic kits, and actually this is a very resilient material. There you go. Resin is perfectly durable, but if you're gluing by 1 single point of contact, it is going to be a bit risky. So you can get the files for Torchlight for $23. Great models, just be very aware of spindly bits and single points of contact. And number 3, it's our friends at Ugni. So Ugni, just absolutely knocking it out of the park this year with Blood Bowl. And this was one of the most recommended, one of the most tagged in our comments for this video, which I thought was really cool. Might look a bit messy here, so we'll have a backup image so we can go and have a look at a bit of detail. That's the only downside of Ugni. The sculpting's beautiful. The rendering can be a bit busy. Got a lot better, which is really cool. So the Wood Elf team from Ugni has gone down the route of the Spite Revenants from Age of Sigmar, which means that they're half kind of tree dryad and half elf, which gives you some incredibly fun painting textures. We've seen a couple of versions of oh god, who's the strength 4 dryad that plays for Wood Elves that nobody ever takes because it used to be on Willow Rosebark. There's some really good Willow Rosebarks out there that are kind of this vibe where you've got like dryad but with elven parts, elven like physical form that you can paint up really nicely. And Ugni just went whole ham and did a whole team like this. So you can see here you've got like this elf is part elf and part dryad. You've got tree hands, elven faces, and it is a really interesting take. And that's why it hit this list kind of so high, and why I'm not surprised to see it recommended is because it's Wood Elves. Obviously Wood Elves. It's literally, in some place, Wood Elves. But it just gives you a very different style that's kind of cyberpunk, but in a wooden way, which is really interesting. The detail's phenomenal. The execution is brilliant, and very much like the other 2 STL teams we've just looked at, There's a ton of different poses, so you will not have a duplicate. And the great thing about 3D printing is you can just clone it if you do. Now, this team also comes with a version of the team with fairy wings, which I wholeheartedly don't recommend using. It's cool, and if you are a painter and you're going to be doing something, just painting something beautifully, then the wings are going to be awesome. They're thin, and even though we've got our indestructible Tomb King here, oh, it's just begging for a disaster. And that's not because it's 3D printed resin. I would be saying the same thing if it was Games Workshop resin, if it was Where Games resin, or if it was plastic. It's just more fiddly than it needs to be. But the cool thing here is you've got the sports attire mixed with the elven core and this weird wooden angle that really means you can paint it up in a really cool way. And these are your war dancers. And I love the thing about Ugni, where they kind of flesh out the positionals with actual words. So you've got the throwers, you've got the catchers, and there's some reasonable contact points for these models. You've got 2 feet. That one lineman's going to take a bit of a hooning every now and again, but otherwise it's not bad. War dancers are wonderful. Now, I don't know how you feel about extra bits on your base, but I don't care. The whole theme of this team is wooden stuff, is branches, is bark, is that texture. So having a bit of bark texture and cool thorns on the base fits in really nicely. Do you know what else fits in really nicely with a team heavy on bark pieces? A tree man, and this is a pretty great tree man. This looks like a big version of the old 4th edition Games Workshop dryads. This looks like they took one of the dryads, doubled them in size, and quadrupled them in detail. You've got all the gnarly bits that Ugni has been doing a really good job recently kind of showing off. You've got the textures on the wings, on the shoulder pads there. You've got this kind of mottling. You've got all the leaves. It is a fantastic model. I've been really impressed with it. All the accessories as well. You've got wingless versions. So you've got the throwers, you've got the catchers there, and they've even got a bust as well. So you can pick up the team via SGL, you can pick up the team via our shop, or at least back in January when we reopen, you can pick it up. In fact, there'll be a January code, so if you're looking for a new team, happy to wait till January, come to us because you'll have a discount code as well. But it's a very cool team. It is an aesthetic you may not enjoy, but I challenge you not to appreciate the execution here. That is Ugni, number 3. Number 2, it is the Succubus Studios Sylvan's team. So we did an unboxing review of this recently. In fact, I need to post that back to my friend Rick, who lent us the team. We did an unboxing review for it. This was a kickstarted team. It is €80 for the full whack of 15 models. No Treeman, just have to flag that up. You can buy a Treeman, but when it comes to Treeman, you can. There's lots of choices. The Games Workshop one, there's the Ents from the Lord of the Rings, and there's a billion third-party trees. Ugni's done a really cool one recently. Anyway, the Sylvan's team pack: 15 models, 2 throwers, 7 line, 2 war dancers, 2 catchers. Let's see if we can zoom in. Oh, well done. Well done, very well organised. We've got 2 throwers, you've got a whole bunch of linemen, and this is something that Succubus does really, really well, is a load of great poses and a lot of differential. They've gone the all-female route with this team, but they haven't done it in a way that is distasteful. They just all happen to be female, and actually they all look like Blood Bowl players, so I'm on board with that massively. You got 2 war dancers. Now the war dancers are floating on capes, very much like we saw with the Torchlight one. It is a pretty common war dancer trope. Hey, war dancers are frenzied. They're harlequins. They are the harlequins, the 40k harlequins in Blood Bowl, basically. They're not just there to be agile and dancey and floaty, and actually, you know what, having them bounce around like that and having them have the most dynamic poses is very, very logical, because they are going to be the reason you run this team. And then you've got some catchers, and they've done a really good job with the catchers of, again, having them all in catching poses, but without having too few points of contact. This team's done a really good job of that. Now, when we did the unboxing review, the scale was brilliant. The casting was, again, brilliant. I was really impressed with the team overall, to the point where this is a very, very good team. And you can see here how the models come, because they are resin cast models. You've got to glue an arm on here and there. I was very indignant and I thought, gosh, I'm going to have to build these models, and then I had flashbacks to building some of the plastic kits. And everything was fine. So, really cool team. It comes in a few parts, not very many. It's all very good. Resin, remember, give it a bit of a wash before you glue it together. But I can wholeheartedly say, if you like the look of this team, if you were to order it, I think you'd be really happy with the quality, the scale, and just the variety of poses in it. It's an excellent team. And if you're looking for Wood Elves and the Games Workshop one doesn't float your boat, Succubus Studio Sylvan's team is very good. And I'm pretty sure they've probably got a Tree Man in there somewhere. Which brings us to number 1, and it is Willie Miniatures Wood Elf team. And you may be looking at this picture going, I recognize that Tree Man. And you probably do, because that is an infamous third-party tree. Now, we'll go through the models in a second, but this is pretty cool. €50. You get 6 linemen, 4 catchers, that's 10 models, 2 throwers, 2 war dancers, 14 and 15 models with a Tree Man. That is €50 for 15 players. All of your positionals, and a Tree Man. Now, as cool and exciting as that is, let's just do the maths here. 6 linemen, 7, 8 with the war dancers, 9 with the thrower. You might want to see if they do a couple of individual linemen to kind of pull it off. When it comes to Wood Elves, I'm not sure if we flagged this as we were going through the other ones, but actually to start out with, you were going to need about 8 or 9 linemen, and you're probably going to need a couple of spare linemen kicking around for when people foul your war dancer or your thrower into oblivion because they just happen to be there. Wood Elves, if you're running in a league, are a very lineman intensive team. They still manage to be brilliant. Anyway, €50 though to get you to that point. There's another Tree Man here, and the way that these guys work. There is a deluxe edition. A deluxe edition is twice the price, and it comes with a pitch. All right, that's quite cool. It's quite cool. Same amount of models though, so wouldn't bother about that. €50 for the team. Let's have a look at some of the sculpts. So when it comes to Willie Miniatures, they are they're more true scale than a lot of the third-party stuff, and more true scale than all of the Games Workshop stuff, which means that they're a bit taller, but a little bit lither. But these guys are chunky boys. They're well built, shall we say. So actually, them being a bit more true scale just means they're going to fit in with the 2016 plus models, the kind of scale rejig from Games Workshop brilliantly. And every single Willie's Miniatures team I've seen has been beautifully cast and just really well proportioned. There's something about them that's just a really well executed model product, and that is why I'm not surprised to see so many people on the post commenting about Willie Miniatures. It's an interesting one because it's kind of the Wood Elf team kicking around. We've seen some great alternatives. Succubus Studios knocked it out of the park. All 3 of those STL ones are excellent. There's stylistic differences, and this is the really cool thing about hunting for your dream third-party team is you get to choose. We've seen Succubus, we've got the old female version, we've got Ugni with the kind of gribbly dryad version. You've got Ring, someone's at my door. Anyway, back on our actual first place contender here. So these are the linemen. You've got a bunch of different sculpts, different poses. There is one that's kicking where there's 1 foot on the ground, but it's the whole foot, and like I said, the models are well proportioned enough that you're not going to have to worry too much about breakages. The difficulty with Wood Elves is they're kind of bouncy poses, but these are your 4 catchers. And with them all making actual catching poses, they're going to stand out plenty when it comes to using them on the pitch. My friend Craig is running a 2nd edition elf team, and he's been very clever and painted the mohawks, the team, different colours to represent the different positionals. With the poses in there, you won't have to worry about that too much. It might be easy to do, it might be better to do it, but you don't have to. And then you will probably have seen this model. This is, again, a really quintessential third-party Blood Bowl model. And it is an excellent War Dancer. So 2 War Dancer models there round out the team. And then you've got 2 throwers, a good mix of male and female here as well, which is really, really cool. I like the kind of Roman-esque style to the team as well. And then you've got the big Chungus. Now, this is a wicked tree man, and this is one of the tree men I think we see the most at tournaments, because you've just got that very imposing style, that very imposing sculpt, the very imposing pose, and it's mixed with this really interesting leaf armor, which gives you a really nice painting base, because you can go wood, dark wood, brown, grey, whatever for the skin, and natural tones for the skin, and then pop with your armor and your team colors there. That works really, really, really well. So it's an excellent tree model, and it's just all in all, let's get rid of the extreme team version because I don't think that's necessary, a really excellent choice. Okay, so what else? You've got the Games Workshop team, which is actually a really good team. Beware, with any of these teams, you'll probably need to consider having a few linemen that you can mark up as journeymen, or this is something that I am a big fan of at the moment. Charlie Victor, they do these rings, and the rings, some of them say journeyman on, and that is an absolute godsend when it comes to running a team in League, because then if you don't have the lineman and you need a journeyman, you just stick the ring on your positional. It's obvious that that's a journeyman lineman, and you're kind of well covered. So if you don't want to fork out for additional linemen because you don't intend to use them for very long, then actually that is a very good way of using it to mark out where you've got a positional that's not a positional. Something like that works really well. Anyway, do let me know if we've missed anything of this list, and hopefully we'll be back soon with more bubble content. Happy leaping. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.